Welcome back, everyone. Always a new day, always a new project. So we actually got ourselves a set of cats. They are brothers and they're very little, and they're currently playing around. We have the litter box up here temporarily until they're big enough to use the cat door that I installed. Let's see if we can't find them right now. I think I know their hiding spot when I'm around during the day, and we're gonna see very surprised little furry creatures. Let's see. Oh, there they are. So the black cat with white trim, that's Oreo, and his little brother behind him, that is Tommy. He is white with gray accents. They're adorable little creatures, and they make a lot of noise, and they have succeeded in trashing the house every day while we're not home. Hi guys. Yeah. So they like to hide under the couch. Now if you have a reclining sofa like we do, you need to take some extra precautions, because one false move or one accidental opening of the recliner while they're under there, and you have not one cat but two. So definitely use caution if you have a recliner and two little furry creatures, or even one. So I've taken yet another vacation day to get some work done around the house, and today's project is this. I've got this Breezeway that you can already see the floor is a little different, but I've already put a lot of work into this room by hand scraping the entire ceiling, repainting it, and then painting all the trim and the walls and everything else. That was on purpose. I wanted to do that before I do the floor. And today I'm getting the floor prepped for paint. So you'll notice that it is painted red. That is the original floor paint, I think. It's been there for a very long time. When I bought the house, there was gray paint over the entire floor, but it was peeling up everywhere. It was really, whoever did it, they used the wrong paint, they didn't prep it right, and they just did a terrible job. So it was peeling up everywhere. So what I've done is I've gone ahead and I stripped this floor twice with two different floor strippers. The one that I found worked the best, I believe, was the Rust-Oleum product, but then I used just a clean strip paint stripper, and it worked okay. Got as much of the gray paint off as I possibly could, and that wasn't too hard. So then I washed the floor down with mineral spirits, and that's mineral spirits will remove the paint stripper residue. You're not done. No, there's still more to be done. Then I cleaned that with a solution of liquid Dawn dish detergent and hot water. They're still not done. There's still more to be removed from this floor before you even think about painting it. I swept it again, and then I ran around with a scraper, a small little scraper, and I scraped up all the loose paint that was on the edges that I couldn't get off, the other crap. Then I washed it twice with trisodium phosphate, which is a powder that you dissolve in hot water. Then, oh, I'm not done. Then I rinsed it twice with just plain water, and I've applied one coat of bonding primer, and that is currently drying nicely. It dries clear. It goes on like a milky white, and then it dries clear. And that is supposed to prep the surface for the epoxy floor that I'm going to put down. So I'm going with a Rust-Oleum epoxy floor. It's a two-part epoxy. You mix it as you use it. It's going to be like a tan or beige color, similar to the ceiling. It's actually going to be much brighter. It'll be just like a light beige. I didn't have it custom mixed or custom tinted. I just went with whatever's in the box. And I can hear cats in the background making a mess. Oh man, they're so fun. So anyway, so I'm also you'll notice that the edges here are, yeah. This right here, this is totally rotted. This whole thing is rotted. About maybe half inch to a full inch above the grade. So what I really should do is just tear these jalousies out. I should just tear them out and start over. Really, I really should, but I'm not really at that point yet. I don't know exactly what we're going to do with this room in the long term. When the jalousies are removed, though, everything else stays. Like all this white trim stays. Look at the little car. All the white trim is going to stay. Everything from the concrete up to that horizontal trim board, that's all coming out. The doors and everything, both sides. Boom, open it right up. Then we're going to frame it in and put in some insulation and some nice windows and doors. That's going to happen eventually, I think, moving ahead. But for now, I just want it to look decent so we can have family and friends over and, you know, just enjoy the room for what it is. So here's my solution. I am going to basically scab over the rotted bits. See all this? That's all wood filler right there. Somebody did that years ago. That's all wood filler. All that right there. Caulking, some kind of wood filler or caulking. I don't know what they used. I mean, it hasn't gotten any worse in like 20, 25 years, so I'm not really that worried about it. So I'm going to just basically scab over it with a piece of painted white pine. We're just going to cover, basically border the whole room in white pine. That's why I really didn't bother doing a nice job over there, because that's all going to get covered in white pine. And that's not rotted, that's solid wood over there on both sides. And actually that one's not too bad either, but I'm just going to cover them. What I'm going to do is, I already bought the wood to do this. I'm going to basically copy that angle with my table saw, and it's just going to slope down a little further. You'll see it when I'm done. That door frame is rotted. You know what, I think I really need to just tear this all out and redo it. And get rid of the jalousies. I've had enough. The jalousies are no bueno. I don't like them. They don't seal up. They're just a pain in the ass. And that door frame that I built, you know, I knew that wasn't going to be there forever, but at least it gave me some practice cutting wood for door frame usage. But anyway, so that's the plan. I'm going to get this floor done, and that's going to be a permanent floor. I'm not going to change it again. It's just going to be an epoxy painted floor. I don't need to do anything more to that. And then, yeah, we're going to just trim it out, make it look good, and move on. Now, for the longest time, you see those bricks right there? Those were the step for this little drop off here. A pretty big step. But those were like an intermediate step for years. It's been that way for years. What I'm going to do, though, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Okay, so what we have here is my new doorstep. This I just whipped together out of some pine and some screws and a little bit of wood filler, some sanded. I sanded it, I painted it, made it pretty. What I've basically created here is a new step, and I also picked up some nice oak planks. So what we're going to do, these are going to be the step, and I'm going to stain these. All right, look at that. So what I need to do is I need to basically, yeah, see, look at that. That looks nice. It's going to look nice when it's all stained. Actually, this goes like that. It's going to be stained, urethaned, and painted. It's going to be pretty. There's a little bit of a little defect there. This is red oak. I just bought a single 1x8 by 6. Cut it in half. There's my 3 feet. I'm going to sand it and treat it all. Yeah, this is it. And this is going to basically serve as the new front step. And I think it looks a lot nicer than a couple of concrete blocks. Now, the other thing is this is going to be screwed down to the concrete. I'm going to use some concrete anchors. I'm going to screw it down with concrete anchors. 1, 2, 3. That way it can't move. It can't be kicked out of place and then somebody falls and trips and smashes their head over like a cantaloupe. It's not going to happen. No more. No Gallagher watermelon head smashings in my house. If you don't know who that is, look it up. But so that's going to be permanently installed, and I'm in a bit of a conundrum here because secure this wood down. It's like a chicken egg situation because I wanted to screw these in place from the bottom so that you can't see the fasteners. Well, that's not going to work because I also need to be able to screw this down using the concealed fasteners or L brackets that I'm using to secure it to the floor with concrete anchors. Well, anyway, I'm going to have to figure that out. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill some nice, beautiful pilot holes, nicely spaced so that they belong where they are. And I'm going to use wood filler and fill in the holes, and then I'm going to urethane the damn thing. I don't know. I mean, I really put myself into this situation because I want to anchor these down and I want to anchor this down. I don't want any visible fasteners. Hey, you know what? It'll all work out in the end. I ain't too worried about it. Yeah. You get my problem. All right, I'm sure there is a professional solution, and it probably costs more money than I have budgeted for this project, so I'm just going to do what I'm going to do, and that's that. Sound like a plan? Actually, there is a proper solution for that. What you're supposed to do is get yourself some hardwood dowels, right? Maybe I should just do that. Get some hardwood dowels, and then, drill down, put the dowel in, glue it, and then sand it, and beautiful. But I'm not going to do that. That costs money and it takes time, and those are two things I really am short on right now for stupid, frivolous expenses like this. Anyway, it'll all work out in the end. I guarantee it. So, all right. Okay, problem meets solution. So I pre-measured out every screw hole, and we are temporarily anchoring this all down together, and it looks like it's all lined up basically to what I was hoping, and it's not perfect. None of the wood is cut perfectly. I don't own a chop saw, which would have made this job a lot more precise. That'll be on my list of things to buy. Using a circular saw is wonderful, but chop saws really do give you perfect cuts every time. Oh well, I'll get one someday. So what we're going to do is I'm going to sand all these boards, make them nice and pretty. Then we're going to give the entire top a nice pre-finish. We're going to just coat it all with urethane. Then we're going to disassemble it all. Once the floor is done, I'm going to anchor it down. Then I'm going to reassemble it. Then I'm going to fill in the holes, give it another sanding, and then put another coat of urethane. And there you go. The problem is, and this is a big problem, the wood filler doesn't always take urethane well, but that's okay. I'm going to be going out. I don't have any clear urethane. I have like a honey oak. I have a few different shades, but I want something clear. I want the natural oak look. I don't want it to be tinted. So I'm going to have to end up buying another can of clear urethane anyway. So it'll all be good. Okay, so I've got it mounted together and sanded smooth. Ain't nobody going to get no splinters on this. Then I'm going to go back to the freaking hardware store and get some damn paint. That's all right. I got a couple hours for the sealer on the floor to cure before I can start putting Epoxy down. That's another way of pronouncing epoxy. The screws I'm using here are some leftover stainless steel trim screws. They have smaller heads, and they will never rust. So if water should get in there, it won't rust. Not that that really matters, because it'll be concealed with. So I used a 1/4-inch drill bit. What I'm probably going to do is see about getting some dowels that might fit. That's still an option, and I'm not closed-minded to it. I do want to give it like a now, maybe I won't do that. Maybe I'm just going to wait until I'm going to do that. I'm not going to do no, we're not going to do that. Yeah. Am I confusing you yet? Good. let me look at what size dowels I can buy. I did use a 1/4-inch drill bit to make my my screw hole recessions. So a 1/4-inch dowel glued in should actually work just fine. And I do have a small miter box I can use to cut them down to size them all. So, okay, well, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Okay, so I went to the old hardware store, the old mom and pop Home Depot, and I went ahead and I bought this. It's a 1/4-inch red oak dowel. Yeah. So basically, all we got to do is cut this down into smaller sections, and then we take our little bit of wood glue and a little hammer. We go ding, 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 and it goes right into those 1/4-inch holes I drilled. Then we take a miter saw or some kind of a fine-tooth saw, and we're going to cut it down to the surface. And then it gets better. Then we take our handy-dandy sander, and then we sand over it again. Boom, boom, boom. Done. Now this is after we install it to the floor. Let's see how that's doing. You see, once we install it on the floor, right, we can reassemble it, because we got to take it back apart again, right? Take those screws back out, take it apart, anchor it to the floor with concrete anchors, then reassemble it, right? Then we're going to do the little, the dowel through the hole trick. Then we're going to sand it, right? Did I say that right? And then we're going to polyurethane the whole damn thing. Let's see how the floor looks. Ooh. So this is the floor. And you can see, just imagine pretty white trim all around the bottom and all that red blood looking shit painted. You can pretty much see the vision that I had from the get-go in this room. The color scheme works fantastically. Yes, this is the cheaper of the two kits that Rust-Oleum produces. The more expensive one is the rock solid kit, which if I were doing a garage, maybe I'd spend the extra $100. But this kit cost about $80. And I used less than half the kit. I have a bag, a 1/4 full of paint that I still don't need. And it comes with 2 bags of that size. What I should have done is bought the single car garage kit. But you know, the funny thing is, I have enough to do my garage. I'm not going to do the garage. Unfortunately, that floor is in pretty rough shape and should probably be skim coated first and leveled. But we're not worried about that right now. But yeah, so this is it. It's all curing nicely. The color is starting to darken. I got nervous at first. I'm halfway through and it's starting to get darker over here. I'm thinking, oh crap, the red paint is bleeding through. That wasn't the case. It's actually just darkening as it's supposed to, as every paint does. This will be walkable in about tomorrow. So tomorrow I should be able to walk on this. Got the fan being a fan, and it's doing a great job of that. Thank you, fan. So I was also concerned about the amount of chips that would be included in the kit and how I would disperse them equally, but I think I did okay. I've never done one of these before. Turns out they give you an F-load of chips. So I probably could have put more down, but I think this is good enough. Now what's happening here is the chips, I think, are bonding. They bond to the wet layer of epoxy, and they soften and yield to it. And then once this is all cured and dried, I think I have to sweep it and something like that. Alternatively, I could actually put a clear coat on this, but the clear coat is stupid expensive, so we won't be doing that. We're just going to leave it the way it is, and I'm going to put a rug over it anyway. I've got a rug that matches all this, and it's going to look beautiful. So here you go. Normally that door is unlocked. Right now it is locked. I don't want people walking in to knock on this door so I can tell them thank you for walking on my wet floor, you. Anyway, that could happen. We have a lot of neighbors and they like to visit sometimes. So I'm going to give this a good day or so to cure. I'm going to just stop looking at it and go do something else. I got to go eat something. I might get that done. Until then, we will be back when it's done. Okay, well, it's now 2 minutes past midnight, and the floor is still tacky, but it is firming up. I check it about every hour or so, and it is still firming up, so that is a good thing. That is a shadow, right? Not a discoloration, I hope? Yeah. Alright, it's been about 24 hours since I put this floor down, and at this point it is solid as a rock. Absolutely no issues so far. I'm going to give it a good sweeping. I'm actually going to put a couple coats of wax down just to give it another layer of protection. But before I do that, we're going to start looking at trim boards. I'm going to start cutting my lumber, my trim boards. I'm going to put a threshold there. I bought one, but it was the wrong size. So I have to go back to the store and get a different one. Not going to really do anything with this door threshold-wise, but whatever, it'll live. So anyway, so we do have maybe some slight coloration issues, but nothing I'm too concerned about. It is my first epoxy floor, so, you know, I should have, if I were to have done this, if I were to do this again, and I cared greatly about the end result, I would probably grind the floor down. But I just didn't want to do that. That would be a lot more work, a lot more expense for what? This actually looks pretty good. So anyway, let's get some measurements. I'm going to start cutting some wood to trim this all out. Oh shit! Okay. All right. Can you like? Okay, well, it's now a couple hours later. I've gotten a lot accomplished. Notice how I doubled up. Look at that. I did that on purpose. So I got a 45. It's a 45-degree angle on the top, and then it comes down about a little over half an inch or so. Then another 45-degree, and then it goes straight down. I did that on both sides. Now what that does is it covers all the wood damage, all the water damage on that lumber. It's not a structural piece of lumber, and it would be a royal pain in the ass to replace it. So I'm just sort of doctoring it up until, you know, a couple years down the road we do end up tearing out these windows. That will happen. That's why I'm not really going nuts and trying to fix the problem now. And I'm trying to do this on a tight budget, so I don't have the money to go and replace these doors and windows right now. So sometimes you have to do things like that to get projects done. My father does that all the time. And sometimes those little temporary fixes end up becoming permanent. It happens. Anyway, I've also sealed around the bottom, and I painted the bottom piece of siding on both sides. So we now have a white border all around the bottom of the floor. And I've applied caulking to that seam on the floor so water can no longer just pour in. My step is installed. It's anchored to the floor, and I'm in the process of. So now that it's anchored, I put the oak top back on. I screwed it down with stainless steel screws, and I am now putting the finishing touch in, which is the red oak dowels. Now these are obviously raised. I want to show you how I'm doing this. I'm not a woodworker. I've never done this before. I didn't even watch so much as a YouTube video. This is just something I figured out on my own. And if it's wrong, it's wrong. I don't really care because I like the results. So let me prop up the camera, and we're gonna do these two using my method that I'm not even sure if it's the right way. Here we go. Okay, so I got a couple of tools here. This is a miter saw blade. This is a tack hammer. I've got some Titebond wood glue. And I've got some dowel. This 1/4-inch dowel. It fits perfectly into that 1/4-inch hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wood glue. I'm going to smear it moderately onto the end of this dowel. I am then going to set it into the hole, and I'm going to tap it in with a tack hammer. Until it bottoms out against the screw head. I'm then going to take my rag and I'm going to wipe off any excess glue, because I don't want that being smeared over by the saw blade. Then I'm going to take my saw blade and I'm going to gently drag it, lightly drag it and don't worry, I'm going to be sanding the surface anyway, so if I do any marring, that's okay. Trying to get it from all angles. Done. Do the same thing, clean the end up a little bit. It's okay. I'm going to reposition the camera because I want to get it from the other side. Okay, perfect. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my sander. I'm going to use a random orbital sander. And we're going to take a clean rag, blow the dust off. Okay. Now you're going to see these holes, or these, you're going to see the dowel ends. That's going to happen. That's perfectly normal. That's actually a style choice in some cases. I've seen some wood floors that were done that way on purpose. Now we're going to urethane it. And now we have about 2 coats or so of polyurethane. We'll see how that holds up over the course of wear and tear. I mean, that is basically the main entrance to the house, and that's the way we all come in. Okay, and now let's see the finished product. So, got a nice new threshold here. I painted the concrete my door gray color, which is what I'm also using for thresholds. And we've got the floor completely done. Got our stuff back in here. All the trim work is done. All the paint work is done. And right now it's kind of a mess because we're staging all of our stuff on this table here for the camping trip we're taking this weekend. You get the idea? Everything is done. I have no more work left to do in this room for quite a while. In fact, I'm thinking maybe 5 or so years or more. And then maybe in a couple of years, we'll be probably demoing the jalousies, which really isn't really a lot of demolition work because these windows all unscrew and they can be taken out. And in this bottom, if you'd call it I don't know what you would call it. It's not quite a sill, but really what it is a 2.5, 3 inch thick piece of lumber that's bolted to the floor, and it's supporting the jalousie windows. That I'm just going to take my Sawzall and cut the bolts, knock them out. Door, same deal, just unscrew the hinges, and then we're going to probably frame each wall in with some 2x6 lumber and 2x6 studs, and then we'll put in some insulation and some nicer windows and doors. I'll have to have the doors custom sized, not a big deal. But right now I'm just trying to keep the expenses low and get as much work done as I possibly can, which means making things functional and usable for the time being. That's what this door is all about, which should be locked, but okay. Anyway, so it's done, and I've got about 4 coats of poly on this. It's been given 48 hours to cure. I've got my threshold painted, both sides, and all's well on the western front. Yeah, I got how many coats of wax on this floor? I think I put 4 coats of wax, or 3 or 4. But it looks pretty good. And I did mention that this floor didn't go down perfectly. I'm not even gonna lie. It would have benefited from a second coat because there was some color variances that would have been prevented with a second coat. I'm happy with how it came out, but I know that in the future that you probably should double roll everything. The other thing is when you're throwing the chips down, you got to be real careful because you can have a few that cluster together. When you throw them up in the air, they should scatter pretty evenly. I saw you in the window. Yeah, I did. And when that is done, I'm actually going to run more power out here, maybe another circuit. And I'm going to put an outlet on each wall, maybe 2. And probably put a propane heater out here, and I'll even insulate the ceiling as well. The furnace that was in my condo, which was a wall-mounted Williams furnace, I'd probably put something similar to that in here, but maybe a Rinnai, a very small one, so we can at least heat it out here, a little gas heater. We are still using this floor mat, which is probably from the 1970s. If I would estimate 1970s, somewhere in that. I need to clean it though. I got a footprint on it from when I was stripping the floor. Oh, fun fact: when I was stripping the floor with, I think I was using a Rust-Oleum floor paint stripper. My shoes started melting. I've since discarded those shoes. But the floor stripper was actually eating the rubber soles of my shoes. So if you're doing a larger area, yeah, find some chemical resistant shoes. So anyway, that's that. Okay, and now let's see the finished product. So, got a nice new threshold here. I painted the concrete, my door gray color, which is what I'm also using for thresholds. And we've got the floor completely done. Got our stuff back in here. All the trim work is done. All the paint work is done. And right now it's kind of a mess because we're staging all of our stuff on this table here for the camping trip we're taking this weekend. You get the idea. Everything is done. I have no more work left to do in this room for quite a while. In fact, I'm thinking maybe 5 or so years or more. And then maybe in a couple of years, we'll be probably demoing the jalousies, which really isn't really a lot of demolition work because these windows all unscrew and they can be taken out. And in this bottom, if you'd call it I don't know what you would call it. It's not quite a sill, but really what it is a 2.5, 3 inch thick piece of lumber that's bolted to the floor and it's supporting the jalousie windows. That I'm just going to take my Sawzall and cut the bolts, knock them out. Door, same deal, just unscrew the hinges, and then we're going to probably frame each wall in with some 2x6 lumber and 2x6 studs, and then we'll put in some insulation and some nicer windows and doors. I'll have to have the doors custom sized, not a big deal. But right now I'm just trying to keep the expenses low and get as much work done as I possibly can, which means making things functional and usable for the time being. That's what this door is all about, which should be locked, but okay. Anyway, so it's done, and I've got my I got about 4 coats of poly on this. It's been given 48 hours to cure. I've got my threshold painted, both sides, and all's well on the western front. Yeah, I got how many coats of wax on this floor? I think I put 4 coats of wax, or 3 or 4. But it looks pretty good. And I did mention that this floor didn't go down perfectly. I'm not even gonna lie. It would have benefited from a second coat because there was some color variances that would have been prevented with a second coat. I'm happy with how it came out, but I know that in the future that you probably should double roll everything. The other thing is when you're throwing the chips down, you got to be real careful because you can have a few that cluster together. When you throw them up in the air, they should scatter pretty evenly.
So I just want to say,
I think it's bright. Yeah.
Merci. Thanks for watching.
All right, we're done.
Bonjour.